to go. Next, we have Tyler Portanova, who's going to talk about Marion Leadership Academy, inspiring black belt youth. Good luck.
Thank you. You're too kind. Like Ann said, my name is Tyler Portanova, and I'm here to talk about Marion Leadership Academy, inspiring black belt youth. So let's take a little trip back in time. So right here is my childhood. I grew up in Brentwood, Tennessee, as a middle child of two sisters, one older, one younger, obviously. And then my parents kind of gave me wonderful opportunities as I grew up, and I was very aware of that and knew that the opportunities I had growing up, I wanted to give to other people. My dad's favorite quote is by Edmund Burke, and it's, "All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing." And he would tell me this almost every night before I went to bed. It kind of got annoying to a point, but I began to kind of take that as a charge on myself and knew that, you know, if I see something going on in the world that's wrong and I do nothing, I'm basically contributing to the problem and I'm letting evil win. So, you know, that's a very elementary perspective of it. I was only 6, so cut me a little slack. But as I've grown up, that's been a charge that I've taken with me through life. So fast forward a couple years, and now I'm a junior accounting major at the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. And I'm a member of Theta Chi fraternity, and in my fraternity, our motto is to extend a helping hand to all who seek it. Once again, that's reaffirming the charge that my dad gave me as a child to, if I see something happening that's not right, I need to do something about it. I'm a member of the University Fellows Experience, and that's where I was able to first see my cause firsthand. We do a program called the Black Belt Experience, as you can see on the right. The Black Belt Experience, the Black Belt itself is an area in Alabama, in the southern kind of region, named after its rich soil. It's been stricken with a lot of systemic issues, specifically poverty, lack of education and funding and things like that. So through the Black Belt Experience, you plan the whole year for an action plan, similar to some of the things we're doing through this program, and then you spend 3 weeks in the summer enacting that plan. Some common complaints with the Black Belt experience is that after the 3 weeks, you're kind of done. And a lot of us through the experience were able to see poverty become localized. To me, before the Black Belt experience, poverty was something I would see on my 1-week mission trip to Honduras every year. And I didn't realize that some of these statistics were happening in our very own backyard. And so that was a really big wake-up call for me. And after Marion, I was left kind of feeling incomplete, wanting to do more, but not necessarily knowing how to do it. So as a University of Alabama student, it's required by contract that I include a picture of Nick Saban in every PowerPoint presentation I give. So if you went around campus and asked anybody, what does Nick Saban represent? What's his big saying that he always says? And they would tell you 10 times out of 10, it's process. He's always harping about process. His famous quote is that process guarantees success. A good process produces good results. A lot of people think that only applies to football, you know, when he's screaming at the players when they're running around in summer conditioning, but I took a deeper meaning to that. I think it applies more to life in general. If you don't have the correct process, you're never going to get the guaranteed results that you're looking for. And so kind of tying that into my experiences with Marion, I knew I wanted to do something in the community, but I didn't want to rush in because I wanted to make sure I was getting the intended results by having the correct process. And a great person once told me that you can only make one good first impression. So I didn't want to do something, and it might be incorrect, and then keep doing other programs because then you lose credibility over time. So kind of to continue my research with the community of Marion, I talked to a lot of different community leaders. In one conversation I had with Dr. Tremble, who's the principal of Francis Marion High School, which is the only school in Marion, really stuck out to me and kind of drove my cause. The quote that I kind of took out of it was, "Our students are a lot smarter than people may think, but their vision is limited because they don't know what's out there. Just having students visit a college or see someone interested in their growth gives them the idea that maybe that dream career is possible, that maybe they can be great." Now, that quote alone is so powerful when I hear it, but after looking at a lot of different things in Marion, you kind of begin to see that true. It reaffirmed a lot of the experiences I myself experienced during the Black Belt program that I went through. You see a lot of the students, and you know that they have a lot of systemic issues that they're struggling against, but they're so bright and incredible students. And you see that maybe it's not because of lack of effort and things like that that are preventing them from going to college or any of these postgraduate options, but it's just the lack of vision and knowing that there's other opportunities out there. So after talking with her, I was able to further look into my program of what I wanted to do at Marion, kind of what are some of the issues they're facing with, and then finally developing that program. So let's take a look at Francis Marion. Francis Marion has 90% of their students are on free and reduced lunch, with 73% of the students, with a 73% graduation rate, which is a decrease from the 80% graduation rate in 2004, and it's been steadily decreasing. Out of the 73% that graduate, 20% are enrolled in college, and that's only enrolled, that's not the ones who actually stay and complete their college careers. So after my talk with Dr. Trumbull, I really knew that I wanted to hit those 53% of students that are graduating and are not enrolling in college. After talking with her and a couple other local community members, I realized, well, my major question was, what are they doing? And I realized not a lot. And it's not necessarily because they lack motivation and drive, but it's a lot of external factors, and primarily they don't know what's out there. So then taking another step back, I asked why Marion in itself. Marion is a very rich community in history. It was where Jimmie Lee Jackson was shot and what initially invoked the Selma March. And there's a lot of racial tensions that have been lasting throughout history there. But after my conversation with Dr. Trumbull, obviously, and kind of what I just touched on, is that there's a huge lack of postgraduate plans for a majority of their students, which leads to kind of an unmotivated workforce for future generations. And then there's this problem they have called brain drain, which is something that a lot of communities face, but because Marion is such a small area, it impacts them more. And brain drain is just when people who are very smart and intelligent go to college and they don't come back because they don't see the opportunities in the community of Marion, or they have negative emotions towards it. And so because of all this, there's been an adult-youth disconnect. A story I like to always tell is that Marion used to be amazing at basketball, which is unheard of for a small community. They, for 4 years in a row, went to the state championships, and the community rallied behind that like crazy. You'd go down the town square and you'd see signs everywhere. All the store windows were painted for the team. But because of funding issues, they've had to kind of cut their program. And because of that, there's been nothing that the community can rally behind. And so that's just one example. There's a lot of other things, but the community has created a huge gap between the adult to youth population, and there's nothing that's really bridging the gap right now. So after all these problems, and after all the conversations I've had with various community members, I developed this program called Marion Leadership Academy. Marion Leadership Academy is a year-long program for juniors at Francis Marion High School. It's a program where the people would meet twice a month and have different themes for each day, and I'll go over the themes a little bit later. And throughout the program, they're going to participate in leadership development activities and have speakers that are going to be relative to each theme. And the reason why I picked juniors versus seniors was because when you're a senior, you have a lot of things to worry about. You have college applications, deadlines coming up, or just worrying about graduation itself. So starting with juniors, you kind of give them that year-long preparation for whatever their post-graduation plans are, and then they can enact those plans senior year. So my mission for the program is to seek to empower students to become leaders by facilitating opportunities for intentional learning, self-reflection, and skill development to create civic-minded and action-oriented student leaders. My vision is to seek innovative and collaborative ways to empower the youth in the Black Belt to engage civically in the community, as well as gain a greater knowledge of their postgraduate options. So whenever you have a big idea, you can't really get that far without having the resources and funding to kind of get it off the ground. I'm very fortunate in my situation to have a lot of those already kind of taken care of for me. So the 57 Miles program at the University of Alabama was made in reaction to the Black Belt experience and how a lot of students wanted to have that year-long effort, but there wasn't an outlet to do so. So the 57 Miles program, Marion is 57 miles from Tuscaloosa, hence the name, but it's kind of an umbrella organization that overlooks a bunch of different operations happening within the Marion community. The 57 Miles program owns 2 buildings on Marion's town square. They own the P3 building and the Harris building. The P3 building is going to be kind of my local area where everyone is going to have meetings, and that's going to be where the Leadership Academy itself takes place. It's a renovated ice cream store. Obviously, there's going to be ice cream store, which is a bonus for anybody. But that's going to serve as the local meeting spot. And then the Harris Building is a renovated warehouse where we have all of our supplies for the academy itself. You have paper, folders, pens, pencils, you name it. All of that's already taken care of. And then a really cool thing is that the 57 Miles program offers a $500 grant for any initial program during their pilot year. So that'll take care of any additional costs, although I don't think I would reach the $500. And then, so volunteer basis, the good thing about the 57 Miles program is that they've been around for 5 or so years, and so they've established that name brand credibility on the University of Alabama campus. They have a lot of volunteers that go throughout the program, and those are going to be the people I'm going to be kind of harping off of. If the volunteers through the Honors College doesn't necessarily work out, though, I have a couple people from the University Fellows experience and my fraternity who have expressed an interest in maintaining a longer and more major role in the program, which is going to be great. And then after, through my research this summer, I've realized that if you have a successful program for 3 years, you can actually offer honors elective credit for any student who's willing to volunteer for the whole year. So that's another way to entice volunteers to come, and it's going to be awesome. So these are some examples of the Leadership Day themes for the program. I'm not going to go through every single one for the sake of your time, but I'll just highlight a couple. For college, we're going to obviously have people from the University of Alabama, but we're also going to have representatives from local community colleges such as Shelton State, or even just some trade schools. And we also have representatives from Judson College and Marion Military Institute, which are colleges in the town that are going to come. And then for Public Service Day, we're going to have the mayor come and speak. The mayor's fully on board with this program. He's really excited about it. We're going to have 2 public attorneys who've been very instrumental with this process. And then also for Healthcare Day, we're going to have people like local EMTs, anybody that it's a trade where you can kind of develop it without necessarily having college education. So my action plan following Mount Vernon Leadership Fellows, it can be broken down into 4 parts, 3 of which I'm working on and almost finalizing now, and then the 4th is going to be my hardest. So confirming dates for the actual program, obtaining official approval from 57 Miles program, and finalizing the list of speakers. Most of those are just going to involve sitting down and actually having that final discussion, but I've been working very closely with the principal of the school and the coordinator of the 57 Miles program throughout this process, so they're very on board with the program, which is great to have that buy-in. And then beginning the application and referral process for the fall program is going to be the biggest obstacle for me right now. For this first year, I'm going to rely heavily on referrals from the principal. I've already spoken to her about that, and she's started to get a list compiled. But and then hopefully for subsequent years, I'm going to focus more heavily on the application process, so that it's more inclusive to all. And my goal with that is to have the applications start August 15th, which is the day they start school, and then to have the official program start October 1st. So what is success for me? Obviously having a postgraduate kind of leadership academy for juniors, you're not going to see any postgraduate results for the first year. So my short-term goals is that the program has a successful launch and that 20 students get through participate and complete the program itself. My long-term goals is that all students going through Francis Marion will have an opportunity to participate in the community and in the program itself, and that students recognize that their options aren't limited and are empowered to make postgraduate plans. Now, another long-term goal that I'm hoping to focus on is that people take an active investment in their community itself. This doesn't necessarily mean that they have to stay in the community after they go to college or have postgraduate plans, but you can still be invested in your community and actively participate without living there itself. Does anybody have any questions?
So what happens to the program if it's a great success when you go off to law school?
So the great thing about being a part of the 57 Miles program is that they have a sustainability kind of method built into it where I would be in charge of it until I graduate, and then they would recruit somebody who's been a consistent volunteer to take charge of it after I leave.
So how do you recruit the right people to be a part of this program? So you're trying to target that 53% that are the ones who are going to graduate but not go to college. How do you recruit those people instead of the people that are already planning to go to college?
And that's why the referral process is going to be so key in the first year, because the principal knows kind of the mentality of the students and knows who's there. And one thing I forgot to mention was that some of the students who have gone through our programs in the past through the Black Belt experience are actually wanting to participate in this as well, to be leaders for it. So they have so much more knowledge of the community that I ever could have, and so that's something I'm going to really rely on. Stay tuned. No, obviously, I would love to incorporate George Washington wherever I can. Token answer.
Except you'd rather have the football coach in Alabama as your quote on the thing. Where's George? You know, George's in love in these presentations.
So I'm still working on finalizing the curriculum right now, but I've been basing it off of 2 programs the University of Alabama does right now in the Tuscaloosa community itself, and I'm hoping to transition that towards the Marion community.
So I have a question from Amanda. She's texting me from home. And she wants to know, what's the involvement from other college students, or are you putting them this?
No, I'm definitely relying on volunteers for a lot of this. It's something that 20 kids is a lot for me, myself, to really lead. So there's going to be a small group aspect of it, and that's where I'm going to draw on the volunteers from the campus. And hopefully long term, I'm going to have past participants of the program be leaders for the future programs. They do not right now, and that's something I've been talking with potential speakers, is that they'll have like applications and things like that they're going to hand out to the students when they come. But the biggest thing with the gap between the adults and the students is that they lack something like that, where you can easily see these are the professions that are available, this is how I get there. And so hopefully with these speakers, it'll begin to kind of build those relationships. Yes? Yes, that's definitely the goal. I'm hoping that once they go through the program, they would come back and kind of work with the community, because, like I was saying, I can only do so much being an outsider to the community. Having somebody who is from Marion itself will do leagues more than I could ever do. Chidma.
So you talked a little bit about how we have buy-in from different people in the community. How do you plan on fostering community buy-in from those adults who aren't directly related to the school, or even across the middle schools in the city?
So that's been the great thing about the University Fellows experience, is that we've been in the community for 10 years, and it's allowed us to develop a lot of those relationships. You know, having people do different projects in all the different fields. You have some people who are in the healthcare industry, some who are in the middle school and elementary school, and then also some on the college campuses and Marion Military Institute. And so we've developed kind of a network of people all throughout the community of Marion, and whenever we call on them, they've been pretty receptive in the past. So that's going to be something I really am going to kind of rely on. All right, thank you for your time, guys.